Hi, everybody. Sean McCracken, news editor for Hotel News Now, here with Jesper Palmqvist of STR. Jesper, it has been quite a while since the two of us got together to do this. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Sean. Good to see you again. And listen, the roller coaster since we last spoke. Plenty to cover today, I think.
Yes, we'll definitely talk about that. So, as always, checking in on what's going on across Asia Pacific. Kind of too big of a region to encapsulate everything, obviously. But what would you say the big trends, the big news you're seeing have been for the last month?
Well, what I spend most time talking to people in August for sure. It's been, well, budgeting, which leads
Hmm.
to where is everyone? They start with demand and then pricing because the first one is right where are people coming from and what's happening in source markets. So much buzz. We talked about this a little bit earlier, India and what's happening. And one perhaps false narrative is that India is replacing China. There was always this talk earlier, like, oh, it's a big source market. It's going to replace every Chinese. You got to remember that Chinese outbound travel is forecasted to be 85% of 2019 levels.
Yeah.
So that I would say that's pretty big and pretty good. So it's not like the question has and should have eroded away from saying, oh, when are they coming back? It's not about that anymore. It's more about who are the Chinese coming out. It's not the tour groups. They do exist, but it's more FITs. It's more what, from other countries. And that means the expenditure is more important. So it's less of the big tour groups where shopping is a big part of it. It's more hotels, more F&B, more experience related. So that's good news for the industry. And we're already seeing it in tourism data from governments. Japan released these numbers where they said Chinese shopping spend has gone down from over 50% to 35%. So that's a great example of who it is that is traveling out from outside of China as well, right? So it's less about that, but that obviously brings competition on the Chinese travelers. Korea, Japan have gone into place 1 and 2 from the outbound Chinese. It
Hmm.
is affordable flights for sure. Airfares are good and currency in Japan's case. But you also have countries, Australia, now obviously friends with China again. And you got Malaysia and Indonesia, the countries that are starting to see more and climbing up the ranks of the outbound. So the point there about India is it's not replacing China, but it adds as a buffer of the opportunity, right, of demand, along with China and others. And that policy making and an airlift makes such a big difference.
Hmm. I wanted to ask you about China because you just got through the earnings season for the publicly
Yeah.
listed hotel companies, and it seemed like the through line, all of the brands, all of them basically said it's great everywhere except for the US and China. And obviously the story in the US is at least in part kind of an imbalance between the outbound and the inbound. Is it the same in China or is it something else playing into that?
Well, you're right, and I've been talking to all the main brands and also looking at the earnings for sure. The Chinese softness in particularly RevPAR growth and the top line growth is so apparent when they compare to other countries. And
Hmm.
they're the same, but one thing that we are seeing a little bit of a difference, maybe if you compare it, which they do, domestic Chinese groups who obviously have a different brand exposure, and there's always going to be different volatility too, either through JV or not, a foreign brand, right, a foreign
Yeah.
company, and than domestic. So we're not seeing the same effect for them, but I have to remember that overall, the rate pressure and the lower spend in China is so apparent. Like look at a market like
Yeah.
Sanya that we keep talking about. Every month, the rates are dropping more and more and more, and we need to, see how far this goes. But it keeps seeing tier one cities, the rates are going down. They have the Chinese currency softer. There's inflation abroad a little bit, and that limited wage growth inside China compared to some other countries. And you remember that Chinese make some decent economy from property, right? A lot of them, that's part of
Yeah.
the property boom and boost, and they they earn less income from that, so they're a bit more cautious in how they spend it. So they go to more affordable domestic, faraway markets, right? Still, and that impacts hotels in those first tier or new first tier, etc. markets. So I think with all these countries, you always look at what's the inbound, what's the outbound, and what's the domestic. And domestic is just so much larger. But I
Yeah.
get it. The inbound into China is almost more interesting now because they're
Hmm.
finally seeing with airlift into China being cheaper, and that is maybe something that could pad. The numbers are smaller, but that could pad some of that softness for international brands, right? Because that's where a lot of inbound people would stay.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, the currency piece of it is very different than what we'd see over here, because obviously currency is a headwind for us
That's
for
right.
inbound.
Yeah, and everyone's talking about India, and sorry about US as well, like how the dollar traveler who is going to many different places there with Japan, but they're going everywhere, right? Americans are trying to
Hmm.
take that strong dollar as long as it rides in many
Yeah.
places.
It really feels like it. It really feels like it. So, obviously you've been on the road like usual. Any takeaways from Jesper's latest travels?
Yeah, I've been a few times spending more time in Indonesia this month, which is a great thing. I love Indonesia. I think it's an amazing country, full of opportunity and positive people and fun
Hmm.
people. Great destination, and it's extremely large. You can spend a lifetime in that country for sure. Coming into new government later this year, of course. So yeah, a lot of talk is always going to be about Bali. That is, you. It's not fair to talk about the rest of the country and Bali, but so much Bali is such an international gateway, and it's
Hmm.
doing really well. Last year, about a year, it's peak season right now, July, August, and last year they had a great year, and this year it's growing even more than that and faster. So the trick, of course, then leads to, hey, how do they forecast for next year? And a lot of people voices are saying, well, it depends if you ask the owner or the the operator.
Hmm.
But more people are talking about flat to 1-2% growth in RevPAR for next year for that market because it's just grown so much this year. Cost definitely going up as well, like everywhere else, but it seems to be okay there. I mean, and again, they're running lower staff than they used to do, but that the demand, a lot of it through mice, and I think that surprised me because I thought it's like a quarter of all arrivals into Australia now is Australian. The big speaking of source markets, Indians and Chinese are definitely growing into Bali,
Hmm.
but a lot of weddings and corporate meetings that are happening in Bali is one of the highest rate growth markets. And from India, I find that interesting because it's only two current air routes between India and Bali, and then India to Kuala Lumpur is 18. Singapore and Bangkok is 17.
Yeah.
Phuket and Ho Chi Minh is 5. So it's changing how India, as a source market again, is bringing people out. But Bali is growing quickly, even with only two routes, and I think that's pretty cool. I mean, but so I
It's
think
pretty
Indonesia,
astounding. Yeah.
it is, and I mean, it's not just Bali across Java as well, and obviously there's a lot of talk, and we're waiting for the official opening of the new capital, Nusantara, in East Kalimantan, that is being built, and that's obviously progressing. I think one of the main highlights for Bali is there's so much you need to get right in Indonesia. Some things are doing really well. The infrastructure, you look at the great airport for the number of years now. They have auto gates, when you come in through immigration. If you
Hmm.
have done your e-visa before that, and when I came, queues are pretty long. People don't know that they can do it.
Hmm.
so,
Yeah.
so then it just needs to get information out. But you got new hotels, etc. But the big issues there is traffic. Congestion is bad with a lot of scooters. You have some illegal immigration challenges, the water scarcity, and maybe the big one is the waste management. So sustainability challenges are quite large that needs to be addressed in a beautiful place like Bali, and preserving the local amazing culture. But they are aware of that, so one can hope
Mhm.
then that focus actually works.
I mean, that's almost always the case in an
Yeah,
emerging market, right? Like, there's a level of maturity that it's not just a financial maturity, it's a figuring all the different pieces out type of.
for sure, for sure. And it also depends on what kind of people are coming to the country,
Yeah.
and the island. And when you look at a market like Maldives that fluctuates so widely with currency and everything, but that's high end. It's mostly luxury. It's doing well, but it changes and still stays up there. And because of these
Mhm.
one island, one resort concept, that's a bit different. When people get to Bali, you have nomad workers and that kind of stuff. People coming in, it changes. I mean, you used to have more Japanese, but Japanese are 30% lower than normal because it's
Well,
too
yeah.
expensive to go.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I wanted that segues well into the next topic, which is, I mean, obviously, on this podcast or anything talking about travel to Asia right now, the topic that's been talked to death is travel to Japan. But I do feel
mhm.
like, and I'm not the type of person who typically gets that like FOMO feeling, that fear of missing out. But there is part of me that's like, should I have planned a trip to Japan this summer? Because I feel like I'm the only person who isn't going or hasn't gone. We had the little tidbit this week in our newsletter that they set a record for inbound arrivals in June with 3.14 million people, and that record month lasted all of 1 month because in July it was 3.29. Like, how long can this keep going? Like, it's obviously we have to be reaching near the peak, right?
I would agree that this will have a cap of some sort. And like just hearing you say those numbers in a month, I still remember when we had 15 to 18 million in a year.
Mhm.
Um, and the plan came out. This is pre-COVID, right? And they were saying we got this big plan. We're going to reach 30 million, and people are like, okay, I don't think so. 40 million. They, I mean, and it was moving before COVID, and now there's escalation. So of course, when you have this perfect storm of exchange rates, airfares, and a great country being open and everything being in place, the I mean, Japan can stretch itself further than I think a lot of destinations in terms of
Mhm.
they are so lacking in staff. I spoke to a number of hoteliers. There are hotels that are opening that just like delaying opening because there are no staff. You remember that
Yeah.
conversation? I mean, that is
Yeah.
happening. And the problem is, as ever, it is in a few key markets. And now the public opinion will eventually also matter because the
Yeah.
pricing Japanese travelers out. So we talk a lot about that. Domestic is taking a hit. We see it for every month now. We're reporting that in media as well.
Mhm.
I think that it has a cap. Now, when does it stop? We're still forecasting this growth to continue for now. As long as these
Yeah.
flights come in and people are happy to do it, but there's a limit to it, and if that lasts 6 or 9 months more, but the growth surely must start subsiding for sure. I would agree with that.
Yeah, that was your public opinion piece of that touches on the one reason I don't feel bad about having not booked a Japanese trip. Because part of me
Yeah,
thinks financially this would be the best time to go.
yeah.
But from an experience standpoint, like, there just has to be way too many people there. Like, it can't be the best. It has to be, like, the worst time to go, right? Alright, so
Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, listen, yeah, there is a mass psychosis whenever this happens to a destination. You feel like, man, everyone's going. What am I missing out? At the end of the day, Sean, Japan is an amazing country with beautiful people and so much to
yes.
see and do. At some stage, yeah, you have to go. I
Mhm.
implore you. But you can go anytime you want. And I would
Yeah.
absolutely suggest that you don't just go or even go just to those big places. I sound like the Japanese tourism agency, but yes, you should go outside in the country. That's where it's even more amazing.
I will when we do eventually make the trip, which my 7-year-old son has already told me that is a dream
Yeah.
travel experience would be to go to Japan. And my wife, who has never been to Japan but studied Japanese for 8 years, also says it's the one place she wants to go more than anything. When we do go, I'll ask you for the ideal travel itinerary.
There you go. We got you. We got you. We got you covered. That'll be amazing.
So So moving on to the topic that we've been dying to talk about this whole time, but have
Mm.
valiantly fought the urge. In the so it's been at least 2 months since we've sat down to record one of these episodes, and in that time, our beloved Sydney Swans have faltered but somehow still made it to the finish line in the top spot. Jesper, I need to know what your footy predictions are. Understanding for our listeners, we're recording this before the weekend. It will publish
Yeah.
after the weekend when we know exactly what the playoff picture looks like. But what are your predictions at this point?
Yeah, it was a crazy ride. When you're so like they were playing some of the best footy we've seen, and everyone's got like, this is one of those years. And then it was like a mental collapse. It just fell
Yeah.
apart, and you couldn't really see what was going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a free fall. But
Mhm.
it was okay as long as they lost those couple of games at one point, and then it started picking up. So they get a couple of wins in now towards the end, and they fortunate see the other teams beating each other to
Yeah.
your point.
There's
And
a
we will
good
end
bit
up,
of luck in there.
yeah, I mean, regardless of what happens against the Crows this weekend, I will end up at the top of the ladder. The percentage is fine. I'd be surprised otherwise. But to
Mhm.
see GWS and Port Adelaide up there, the ladder, maybe the main thing, and spite never sleeps, the most important thing is that Collingwood is out of the picture, right?
Mhm.
That I can't see that happen. If it does now through a freak accident, I'll eat those words. But that was really important. So I'm really happy
Mhm.
that the Pies are missing out. I am much less confident about this playoff now, right?
Yeah.
Because it just seems volatile, right? You've seen this in other sports and everything else, and you
Oh, for
need,
sure.
when you're in the zone like they were, it doesn't last. And did we peak too early? All that stuff is just beating me up. I
That's the
think,
question.
yeah, I think the form of some of the teams are super important. Like look at Port Adelaide and GWS now; they have been steaming. So you want to get a nice playoff picture. So I think if we get a decent picture, we can. I could see a grand final. I could see it.
I'm gonna knock on wood right now.
Yeah, but if we get if we get there and winning it, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, I can't wait for September. It's gonna be an amazing, amazing month.
Oh, for sure. You
Oh,
know
you
what?
just
And I
made me
do.
real nervous.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's the right feeling, right? And we
Yeah,
probably should have seen it coming because I think the last time we talked, when we were on this kind of ridiculous hot streak, the Swans were
yeah,
scoring more than anyone else and giving up fewer points than anyone else. And that's just unsustainable, right? Like, it's a nice position to be into, but like, that's historic dominance in any sport that almost never happens. So I guess a backslide should have been expected, but it's still, I would rather have just won everything.
yeah. And it's also because we're such a, this year the difference is great midfield and all that kind of stuff. But then you see things not working out for Heaney and some of the key players. Even Wicks and Errol Golden and people. But it was okay. Let's not jinx it now.
Mhm.
Which we have done before, obviously. So let's move it.
Well, yeah,
But
so that's something we specifically need to apologize to any Swans
yeah.
fan in our listenership. I feel like we need to issue a public apology because I feel like this jinx is so squarely on us because you
Mm,
can track the downward trajectory to like us not being on this podcast talking
100%.
about it. So it's all 100% on us, and I'm confident that us reconnecting is going to get things going in the right direction.
I would agree with that. Now, and a quick segue here from so go Swans, but in other sports, motorsports, here in Singapore, Formula One is coming up soon. Um,
Mhm.
the steady event, it's more than a Taylor Swift. It's every year. It brings a full week of good business into the country. The business is looking on the books right now. similar or even slightly better than last year. And obviously they would have, the interesting here is about the rates. Singapore, there's concerns about some hotels, particularly around Orchard, that are feeling the pinch in some demand and therefore dropping the rates. But Formula One looks very similar and normal, which is what we'd expect, which also comes with underwhelming musical acts of has-beens, etc. But it's still a great show. It's a great weekend, and it's good fun.
All right. Next time we do this, we'll have to dive into more what you find to be the underwhelming musical acts. But we gotta leave a teaser for everyone.
That's right.
All right, Jesper. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Sean. Have a good one.
Hi, I'm Davon Reed.
I'm Omari Head.
And I'm Chris Henry.
We're the hosts of the Next Gen and Lodging podcast on the Hotel News Now podcast network. It's a monthly show in which we interview a new generation of hoteliers to get their insights into a variety of disciplines and topics, from finance to food and beverage and hotel operations. Listen to us on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of the Hotel News Now podcast was recorded on August 22nd, 2024, and edited by me, Sean McCracken. Go to hotelnewsnow.com for the latest industry news every day.